Dear students, before we begin to explain you about interview, it is very important for all of you to understand what is an interview. I want to be very specific to all of you that you understand the multiplicity of personality. If you don't understand multiplicity of personality, you are bound to fail in your function. Why we want to explain you this, you have to understand. Suppose we are in a room, that is in our home, we are there. The behavior is different. And we have the privacy of taking ourselves, cleaning ourselves and getting fresh. But when you come out to the bedroom also, we have certain restrictions because there may be other members. So we have certain restrictions on our dressing. Once we are dressed and we walk into the drawing room, we have little more restrictions. And then we are sitting and eating, we have certain other restrictions. Finally, we go out, we have more restrictions. So you're seeing that from our bathroom to our going out to the society, we have a lot of other factors which we have to observe and react. The moment we reach the office, we have other kind of behavior, other kind of things to follow. And the moment we reach further back to probably go to a conference or go to give a speech, we have many other things to follow. Imagine that you are a prime minister, or imagine that you are a foreign minister, or imagine that you are a other minister. You have to be very watchful in talking specifically as per the function. So now you see the multiplicity of personality. Now, what exactly is this interview about? Interview is about checking whether you in the future will be able to follow this rule, will be able to adapt yourself to these multiplicity of personality and circumstantial need. If you can do it, if you have the wisdom, welcome to the organization. If you don't have the wisdom, I'm sorry to say. But these answers cannot be directly asked. So what they do is they tend to look at your past roots in identifying how much you are developed for the future needs. But once you're done with the future idea that they've got that you can do this, then they ask you many more situation reactions or psychological imagination questions. And this way they can predict that you will be able to handle different circumstances, and thus you will be fit to be in the organization. Every organization is identifying their organizational need and thereafter creating this interview. Interview is not about looking into your true personality. It is, but it is with retrospect or with respect to the need of the organization. And identify your maturity, identify your intelligence, identify your approach. When we go ahead in our life, we sometimes become stereotyped. Why is today Islamic fundamentalism taken as a fear in the society? Because we are seeing that the theories they are proposing is unfortunately on a very extreme level, and many of the countries which were their very own, rather from Syria to Iraq to other places, after their very own theories, they have become extremely aggressive and extremely destructive, and as a result, the fear looms large over the Europe, the other places, that Islamic fundamentalism on the large can create serious problems because they tend to be non-tolerant to others. Now, imagine that, but it is not the truth, because there are many people who are very, very intelligent, very, very open, very, very progressive in Islam also. And there are many fundamentalists also who are very, very specific to the principle. But unfortunately, these numbers are very few. Most of them, they follow that things, but they do things as per the need of the circumstances. Thus, they go wayward. That is why I'm giving you an example, not to be demeaning the religion, which is a wonderful religion. I openly agree that Islam is the youngest religion, one of the most evolved religion, understanding the human nature. But unfortunately, the interpretation of the religion has gone wayward. And the result, of course, is in front of you. So here, imagine anybody with any extreme rigidity walks into any organization and he tries to work in that organization. He'll have problems. He will create more enemies. He'll create more disturbances and probably destroy the organization. So we need to have a flexible approach. We need to have a matured approach. We need to believe in live and let live. But yes, get the work done also. So whenever an interview is done, whether it is of armed forces, whether it is of IB, whether it is of IS, whether it is of any other place, the interview tries to identify an individual in terms of this entire panorama, entire parameters, so that they can identify that this gentleman or this girl or this lady we are selecting will do good justice to the job and will evolve with the working and help in the functioning of the organization. So the interview, you don't have to specifically think it is my on alone. No, it is with a very broader perspective. So you have to identify that it is the time that you rise up to the hour and you rise up to the thought process and rise up to the entire system, so that you can identify where are your shortcomings. Now, how do you prepare for an interview? I'll tell you this in a short way. See, self-analysis is a very important part of interview. When you analyze yourself with a broader dimensions, you will find certain lacunas, certain shortcomings in your approach. You may be very aggressive, you may be very polite, or you may be extremely undecisive. Every kind of things may be a part of your personality. Now, once you've identified your weakness, you need to work on it. Your decision making should be good. Your approach should be flexible. Your approach should be matured. Anybody who's having a, what should I say, a skewed thought process, or what should I say, a prejudiced way of looking at things, will automatically land up becoming acceptable in few places but non-acceptable in other places. So the personality, if we talk, is a broader dimension. The word personality comes from a word called persona. Persona means mask. Mask does not mean your true self, but it means the intelligent self. Now here I am again saying, mask does not mean artificial self. I am talking about the intelligent self. There are some people, while presenting their personality, go for an artificial self also. And this contradicts with their entire biodata, with their entire behavior, and with their entire conversations. This is unfortunate. So mask does not mean artificial, to be related to your thought process. How will I make something which is wiser, my part process, which has not been a history of mine? By understanding the need, appreciating the need, absorbing the intelligence, and thereafter putting it in our behavior, rather in our thought process. So can somebody change himself or herself for the interview? Yes, provided the person is able to understand the right thought process, appreciate the right thought process, and thereafter process other things with the same right thought process. So interview can be trained, there is no doubt about it, provided it is done by you from heart. From heart means from within, from your own thought process. And the moment you do that, things are going to be wonderful. So let's understand what are the interviews. When you go for, say, for an armed forces interview, you'll end up being asked on many aspects. But how will they identify your personality? Your personality is already a sum total of your childhood, your school participation, your family contribution, your social readings, and thus you are already having a broader structure. So if your broader structure is generally on the having the wiser shades, which is including flexibility, which is including wisdom, which is including facts, which is including what should I call a foresightedness to identify and to decide rightly, then wonderful. That's beautiful. So when your thought process is skewed means tilted, or it is prejudiced, or it is rigid, or it does not have a broader perspective, then what will happen? You may be very successful in a very limited circumstances, but not all the circumstances. So while we are looking at your interview, we are also identifying how you will apply yourself in different circumstances in the future. So when you walk in, the first thing they ask you, what is your name? And you politely tell, this is my name. I've also seen sometimes they identify the way you answer as your nature. Like for example, if somebody asks you, what is your name? And you says, my name is so and so. Now, I don't think that's an appropriate answer. I feel that if you just add one prefix to this answer, that sir, my name is so and so, you are doing a double job. That is not only you're telling the answer, but you're also giving the respect to the other person. And that speaks enormous about how you read circumstances and how you react to circumstances. The politeness in your tone should also be there. Not extremely polite. We are not looking for a hospital in hospitality industry. In hospitality industry, they look for extreme politeness. That is why if you go down to a five-star hotel, you will find people talking in a very, very soft tone, in a very polite tone, and sometimes extremely polite to the level of please and other things, right? But in general places, you can use your firm tone, but that doesn't mean that you have to say it loudly, but it should be audible. Audible means one can be able to hear it. That's important. So once you do that, automatically things fall into the right place. It comes up, okay, you mean this. So when they ask you what is your name, the way you say, sir, my name is so and so, they identify a personality. Now done. Then they will ask you, okay, where are you coming from? You've said, I'm coming from so and so place. Now to strike a conversation, it is natural for a interviewing person to ask you, okay, tell me something about your place. Now by your answer, the person will not only identify what you know about the place, but will also identify what is the way you approach to tell the place. Are you happy with the place, unhappy with the place, or are you too proud of the place, or are you factual with the place? So there are many people who tend to prepare this answer, and they should, that they say very nicely with an appreciative tone. Why appreciation? Why should I appreciate my town? Because I've been living for a number of years. And if I am not well adjusted to the town, then I think we have a problem in social adaptability. I agree, the town may not be as good as New York, or may not be as good as London, or may not be as good as any city whichever you dream to be the best. But actually it is. It is good because it is the place where you have learned. It is the place where you have lived. It is the place where you have earned certain amount of relations, certain amount of achievements. So you should be proud of it. Not extremely that you look down upon others, but should be healthily proud. So if they ask you, how do you like your city? You should appreciate it. And then you should tell all the details. Now, what do you mean by details of the city? It can be divided into many sections. You can talk a little about the geographical location. You can talk about the economical basis. You can also talk about the historical basis. You can also talk about the present terms of infrastructure. And all the time, you can also talk about the futuristic aspects. There are some cities which are coming up. So you can talk about those coming up factors also. So this way you have prepared your answer for the city. I'm sorry, I use my hands, but while giving the answers, you should not. But as a teacher, I want you to look up. I want you to understand. That is why I'm doing it excessively, because I want to touch you. But in interview, you have to be confidently sitting with a calm face and giving all your answers. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to tell them. You just have to be like a wall, telling everything, whatever they ask you. The one person who unnecessarily wants to use too much hands in the interview to convince will be wrongly mistaken as, he will be mistook as or wrongly mistaken as one person who is not very confident, so he's explaining too much. But now you will say, sir, you are doing the same. Actually, I am, but I'm a teacher. My role is to keep reminding you, underlining you by raising my hands, by raising my fingers. So please don't correlate these both things together, but correct yourself on the right. The more calmer you will be, like if you're calm looking and then you're answering, it will be very good for you because it will speak huge of your temperament. It will speak that you are cool, you are confident, and you are relaxed. Now, for this, you may have to do a little exercise while you're doing it. I agree that while somebody is interviewing you, the sense of stress may walk in, but cut down the stress. Practice will do it. So sit down sometime all by yourself and then give your interview to your own self. What is your name? So my name is Arun Shukla. Where are you coming from? So I'm coming from Lahavati University. What have you done there? So I've done my graduation. Now these are the ways you can pre-imagine your questions and give the answers. You can use a mirror in case you want to do that. And in case you want to use a mobile to identify, you can do that. Today you have mobile as a mirror. Many times people use it as a glass while they walk into a place. They open the mirror, change this thing, and then they look how they is. I don't have to do that, but other people do. So what they do is they look up at their hairs, they see if it's unruffled, they put it properly. This thing happens. So you can use the mobile. But look calm. Everybody loves to look at a calm face because it speaks of confidence. It also speaks of intelligence because if you're calm, your intelligence will be giving 100% result. There is no doubt about it. No doubt whatsoever about it. So whenever you are giving an answer, your 100% result is important. Getting my point? Now we go further. Once this is done, they will ask you different questions. What are the different questions? They will ask you about your education. So you should be thought about it. It was your experience. So you should be knowing the data statistics on your tip of the tongue. 10th, I did this. How much percentage? This is this. What was your roll number? This is this. What was the school? This is this. And thereafter, you've told that. Thereafter, in 12th, what did you get? What was your roll number? What was your percentage? You should be having it on the tip of your tongue. Once this is done, then you will come down. They may ask you, okay, what are your hobbies? The reason why they want to ask hobbies specifically speak of a person's interest. It speaks volume of the person in terms of preferences. People who are generally on the upper side of wisdom or grey-headed, their hobby is also related to some intelligent pursuit. Suppose somebody tends to read a lot, the hobby may be reading novels, lighter reading. They may be creating projects or they may be liking to create some movie because their brain is all functional. So anybody who has a functional brain has a tendency to entertain himself with other activities of the brain rather than closing the brain totally down. However, if the person is highly stressed, may relax for a certain period of time, but still, because the thinking process is on, it never stops, you will do something which entertains your thinking process. It can be music, it can be certain more other projects, it can be something very interesting which you pursue and which shows your depthness in personality in terms of interest pursuit. It will speak volumes. So a good hobby certainly becomes a great force in interview. So if you have a good hobby, I'm not again saying one thing more. Generally, a person with an intellectual mind or a well-built mind or a well-built thinking process generally has a habit of pursuing 2 to 3 hobbies. One can be adventurous, can be going out traveling, and when he is traveling, would be loving to watch, take photographs, maybe also loving to find out about places. So that homework you will have to do. If you are saying traveling, then you must know about the place, what is special about the place, and what you learned about that place, and what you liked about that place. Similarly, you can tell about photography. They will expect you to know about the camera. They will like to know how you, what are the different elements of the camera, they will ask you. If you have astrophysics, you should be knowing a lot of details about the different space travels, about the different astronomical things available there, also about the different units, about the different planets, comets, satellites, etc. Similarly, you should be having a knowledge about a novel. Then they will ask you who was the famous character, what was the story, what did you like about that person. So having such details will help you to impress a reading mind, impress a good thinking process, because they want to know you. If you say, I am going to keep my door shut, unfortunately, they will never know you and thus will not evaluate you. But all the time, one thing is very important, that you practice yourself, that you look calm, relaxed. There are some people who have a habit of looking very disturbed or aggressive, or very, like a meek kind of personality. The moment they are asked, then they become a little subdued. Don't do that. Just look firm, speak calmly, and then impress that you are. You don't have to feel like a thief. So if you are not like a thief, you will never hesitate. You look calm and you will give all the answers. And that is a very important aspect, very, very important underlining. Never contradict your answers. For this, certain amount of practice is very important. Now, you sometimes make up stories. Don't do that. Whatever you have decided prior to giving the interview, stick to that. No moving here or there. Just sticking to the place, what you want to say. It cannot be wavered. It should not be wavered. It should not move here and there. It should be strictly following a path of what you are and what you want to say. Now, once you're done with this, like for example, I was going through this and I came to know about certain aspects, right? That, excuse me, can you please help up that there are certain questions asked in different interviews. Now, this was one which is coming about. Like in IB interview, they ask you, what's your qualification and what's your family? Now, why do they ask your qualification? They want to read how educated you are. And they ask you about your family, so they want to know. You don't have to be possessive about your family, but you don't have to be irresponsible towards your family. Now, remember the balance. The duty is the next part of your life. So if you're sounding crazy about your family, that at every point of time you will forget your duty towards your professional, credential and only think about your personal credential, then I'm sorry to say, you will lose track of money, which is the base of present life, of supporting your personal life. So you have to have that balance to know how to manage your profession and your person. They may ask you a question also for the same. They may ask you, you are important duty, your parents are ill, but you have to go both of the places. What are you going to do? Well, in that case, you know very well that you have, once you want to take care of your parents, the hospital is the best place to do that. So once you have, admitted them in a proper hospital with the best of facility, your job is half done, rather full done. And thereafter, let them take care of them. And then you can go and do your job and then later on return. So now this kind of management should be there. But if we are getting emotionally disturbed that my father is there, so I'm not doing anything here, no, not done. This means that you don't have a attitude or aptitude to manage professionalism and personal circumstances. Now they ask you something like, where are you from? They basically want to know your socio-economical conditions. They want to know about your cultural conditions. There are some cities which have very different kind of cultural tags. For example, suppose somebody says that I am coming from Chambal, and Chambal has been very well known for the dacoit culture. So now they may ask you, so what do you feel about that place and what was it? Now everything has changed over the period of time. Dacoits were there, dacoits may be there still, but you are living in your room, in your school, in your place, in your home, and in your society which may be dacoit free. So you tell them that. Similarly, many cities may be having certain aspects which they may counter answer, question you, what you like about the city, what you don't like about the city, how you're going to improve that. You should have an analytical mind beforehand for that, because they are not going to give you the power to improve the city, but they're going to see the way you analyze, the way you think, the way you identify. The way you think has to have two elements: one, identify the problem, and second, your solution should be practical. It should not be hypothetical, that I'll get a lot of money in this. It should be practical. You know one thing, you educate a mind, you educate a country. But you create something, does not make a country, because people, if they are not educated, they'll destroy it. You give a toy, electronic toy to a child, there's a possibility he'll break it. But if you educate a child to create an electronic toy, you've done a miracle. He'll create many and he will be happy with them. So there are people in the earlier age who used to give mechano kind of thing, game to the children to create toys. But there are new people who are buying toys which are costly, and within few hours, not even days, the toy goes away. So you have to understand that perspective. Now here we go ahead. You have all exams you have appeared, and what are they trying to question by this? They are checking your potential. What are the different exams you have cleared? And they may ask you why you joined there and why you left there. You should have clear answers for the same. Of course, everybody has a desire to progress, and you can always say that I had a desire to progress. And if you suppose you are in a parallel organization, you are in alpha organization, and you are coming to a beta organization, there's not much of progress except the work conditions are different. Then you will have to be specific to tell that why you are selecting the beta organization, because of the work condition, what kind of work condition you prefer. Imagine I am in a customs or income tax, and I'm going to IB. So automatically it's very clear that customs and income tax is dealing mostly with administering the taxes and checking the applications, whereas IB is doing a broader work. It's doing a broader work of regulating anomalies in the society, correcting in all areas whatever is going wrong as per the complaint received. So you get a broader area and you would love to do that. Go ahead, give the answer. Then there is, what is the political scenario? Why do you want to join? If they ask you why do you want to join, please be very specific in telling, the identifying with what the organization is about. For example, you're joining the armed forces, so they ask you, well, sir, I would love to be a part of not only military train myself, but also love to be a part of the forces which are protecting the borders. Also, love to be a part of the different activities which the military does, like helping people in crisis. And last but not the least, the respect it earns. You can say that. Similarly, why do you want to join IB? You can always say that I want to join IB because I feel it's a very important organization which is going to help in corrective measures. It is very, very important organization which will check the national progress, which will check the people who are going wayward. It will also alert the country in terms of any external issues, internal issues, and thus streamline the progress very rightly. And I would love to be part of it. Why do you think I should select you for the IB? Well, sir, number one, or ma'am, whatever you really want to say, that whatever the person is sitting in front of you, that I basically feel if you select me, of course, my interest is there. Plus, I promise you that I will take my responsibility seriously. In my past also, I've always done my duty fully, properly, whether it was small, big. I'm sure that this is a serious responsibility. I'll give it my 100%. Now they ask you something more. What is your degree? Like, for example, if you have a law degree, or if you have a BTech degree, or if you have a, say, BA degree, they'll ask you how will it help. And for example, law. Knowledge of law is very helpful in all professional working, because law tends to help you read what are the limitations, what are the right directions, and does help you to contribute more to the organization in a more nice manner. So if you have done law, then you can certainly say that, sir, very thankful that I pursued this. And this is going to be very, very beneficial. I'll be knowing my limitations, be knowing my directions, I'll be knowing my navigational path so that I'll be able to do the more justice to it. So that is the way you can answer. Then they will ask you, okay, tell me about political situation of Jammu, Kashmir or UP. Now, in political observations, I want to educate every one of you that every organization understands the seasonal change. What do you mean by seasonal change? Tomorrow this party, then tomorrow this party, then third day this party. So we don't want you to have a stereotype impression about any party whatsoever. You should have the rational point, but you should be understanding that every administrative person has to remember one lesson properly. Human consideration, fine, but also human discipline. If you just have human consideration, that means you are always going by the blood policy and you're not using the iron policy of punishing the people, then I think you're wrong. Because then what will happen? Many they say you spare the rod, spoil the child kind of thing. That means you won't be able to control the organization or control the people into the right dimensions. So you can give this answer that this is what I am looking forward to it. What if you are posted in remote areas? Well, I'm going to utilize the experience, learn from there, identify the geographical things, adjust myself to that place. Even if it's weather condition, I will adjust, I'll take precautions, I'll buy a coat. Now there is no complaining, you just have to do duties at all places. And you will have to adjust yourself a little bit. And that means applying your energy into right directions. There are many times when you're posted on a post which is there for just general awareness for emergencies. So you are having certain period of time, you can pick up books, keep reading, but be alert also at the same time. So you can use such posts in a more healthy manner for your further growth, for your further knowledge. So you don't have to say that you are going to have a problem. So I think you can understand that, and it is natural. So whatever I'm telling you is very natural. Then they may ask you if you have done NCC, NSS. These are certain questions being given here. I wanted to cover that. Now, if you are asked NCC, NSS, every organizational exposure educates you. It educates you about human behavior. It educates you about human management. It educates you about circumstantial management. It educates you how to take emergencies and stress in right perspective, rather than becoming troubled with it, but streamlining it to getting the goal. So this is something. Okay, do you get angry? Of course, it is natural for everyone to be angry at some point of time, but that anger doesn't have to be multiplied. It has to be within normal parameters. Actually, denying that we don't get angry at all will be wrong, but you can say that there are certain occasions they love the truthfulness. And that anger, if I feel healthy, is mostly directed to our own self. Like when we give your exams and we do small mistakes, we do feel angry with ourselves that I wish I had not done it. We sometimes see gross mistakes in the society. We do feel bad that people are not listening, they are not using the wisdom, and instead of losing your temper or tantrum, what do? You streamline your anger to activity. You walk in, you help them resolve, and this way you not only solve the problem, but move on with the things. Now, if you've learned this, I think you've learned how to control your behavior, and you learned how to check your frustration, and you learn to keep rolling, keep moving like a river. So I think you can say this for your anger if they ask you. Then they ask you for which reasons you generally get angry. I've already given you that. And I get angry with ill discipline. No, I don't think so. I mean, you can say certainly that, for example, in the road also, it's indiscipline actually. Similarly, if somebody breaks the line, I do feel a little angered. At that point of time, I just coolly, firmly, without getting aggressive, request him to come down into line. In case he doesn't, well, I tell the authority to do the needful, because That point of time, I will also have to take the authority into the hand. I cannot take the law in my hand. So I will certainly tell the authority, and mostly it is resolved. And when the public is there, that person corrects himself. So suppose the person fights after that, you can tell him that I'm sorry, I don't mean this, because I actually also had a long line. So I just requested you. If you no, I have emergencies, you can create a story of your own emergency that I also unfortunately have so and so. And this way you can counter the situation. Your intelligence is more important than the truth and untruth. Your wisdom is more important. How you manage people, how you manage circumstances. I don't say that it means to be cunning, it means to be clever. Clever means how you discipline your wisdom within the proper parameters. Now we go further. You are my boss and I get late every day, although want several times, what will you do? Now, if you are my boss and if I'm somebody's boss and the person is coming late, I will always tell the person, want, no problem. Then what I'll do is I'll give a written writing and then inform the authorities and go as per the rules rather than becoming personal. Because after all, the late habit is affecting the organization. It is not only affecting the efficiency of the organization, it is affecting the discipline of the organization, it is affecting the climate of the organization. So I'm going to do this so that others don't follow suit and they also learn that they have to control it. So now your answer is very intelligent. I am told, what will you do? Then, okay, now they may ask you different SRTs for the same. If you come to know that somebody is lying to you, right, regularly, so then be cool, but tell the person, put the facts together and tell the person not to repeat the lie. Tell him that after 2 warnings, they would be putting it on paper and thereafter putting it across to the authority. And by doing so, you always manage. I don't know if it happened with you. I was sometime made a class monitor, or you also must have been made a class monitor. There were times that when as a class monitor, we told a friend to keep silent, the friend opposed. The second time we said, he says, don't try to be boss with me, your friend, behave yourself. So what do? I convinced them that, see, I'm sorry, I am your friend, I will remain your friend. Minus the duty, I'm always your friend. But at this point of time, I have certain procedural things to do. I will do this. So please do this way. And if you still have an issue, then we'll solve. So this is the way you have to go about it. Is it clear to all of you? So these things have to be understood by you. In this way you can prepare. This is a perspective which I have tried to educate you. Thank you very much. Hope you have understood.